We get her a couple times a year too because she's very popular and she's actually helped get some of our people placed. So, placement's a good thing, but placement's not all that anymore. And also, now there are crazy things going on with some of the contracts and stuff. Will, in particular, asked me about a lot of that stuff, and I asked him to come tonight because I'm sure he has some specific questions about contracts and things because he just got one. So,
Well, I mean, just that's really what I do primarily is deal with contracts most of the time. So, especially, songwriter, sync related things. So, hopefully, I can answer some questions about that if you want to raise them
We
here.
are
yeah,
live on YouTube now, Jimmy.
yes, I saw that. Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
And so let's see. I know Will's on the East Coast, so we can go ahead and start with him if that's okay. Did you get any music from him there, Steve?
Yeah, just a second. Let me double check
Okay, so he's working on
if
that.
I have that one.
So while Steve's working on that,
Because that must have just come in. I,
yeah, I think when it
let's
came in
see.
today.
Yeah. Thought I downloaded this.
And then Sham, I think you're also on the East Coast, right? Yeah. Okay. So Will, yeah, let's go
Oh
ahead and
no,
get
I asked him
started.
which one he wanted to use. That was it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, you
Because
can
he sent me
hit
like
him on the
six
side
songs.
on the
Yeah.
chat with that. But right now,
Yeah.
let's let Ben explain a little bit about what he does, and then we'll go ahead and start with Will Sims after that. So Ben, tell us what you do and all that good stuff.
Hey, everybody. So, my name's Ben McLane. I'm an entertainment attorney based in the LA area. I've been doing it over 30 years. I think I came out here in '88. Originally to get into management. I went to law school at the same time, but I was trying to get into management, which I found was kind of tough. But it was a good way to actually get an entree into the business because I found when you're a manager, you at least when you're doing it independently and working with up and coming artists, you wear a lot of hats. And so I met a lot of people, learned a lot, and learned that I found that probably wasn't for me because when you're a manager, you if you're doing it the proper way, you work on commission. It's not one of these pay consultant type things. So, you have to really believe in the artist but you can't support your family that way if the artist isn't making money. And unfortunately, as good as I thought the artists were, they just never really got over that hump. So I focused on the law part of it, and I went to law school at Pepperdine. So I've been doing that about 30 years, and I've had my own practice about 30 years. Yeah. I didn't really intend it to start that way, but nobody would, even though I'm, not that I'm dumb or anything, it's just tough to get a job no matter what you're trying to do when you're trying to break into the music business when nobody knows you and you have no credits or family in the business to give you a leg up. So I, pretty much I worked at a couple small record companies and management companies and just to sort of learn the business, meet some people. But then eventually I just had to open my own practice, which I've run for 30 years now. Like I said, it's in North Hollywood currently. But I didn't plan it that way. I always hoped, and I still would probably, when I mentor people or whatever, I usually say, hey, you probably should try to work if you want to be a lawyer, at a law firm or a record company or something where you can be learn the business from people that have more experience and you kind of teach you. So since I didn't really have that, I kind of had to learn everything the hard way. But because I did, I think I really know the business and all aspects of it because I rep songwriters, producers, managers of record companies, music publishers, these days influencers, filmmakers. So pretty much anything that's in the media business. And over the years, we've had things that have charted in top 10, even a few number ones, some gold and platinum records, things like that. So that there's always good things like that to look forward to, and there's always the potential for that. But mostly for me, I'm just doing work for people behind the scenes, though, helping them with their contracts, making sure they don't make the wrong moves. Sometimes I do have relationships in the business. I don't know everybody, but I know some people, so I can sometimes connect people, and so they can move to the next level, and so I have some value there too. Um, yeah, so I'm just here and I did write a book. If Jimmy wasn't going to mention it, a couple of years ago, called "The Music Business in 10 Easy Lessons," which you can get on Amazon. Actually, I don't know. I'm getting light, but Amazon, it's either paperback or an ebook. if anybody's interested. But it's mostly just about what I've discovered when I wrote the book. I kind of sat down and thought, well, what are the 10 things that most people have asked me over the years to help them with or had questions about? So I try to distill it down to those things. So it's really more for entry level people, but it kind of covers all the bases of things that copyright. Let's see. It's been a while since I wrote it, but copyright, trademark, partnership agreements, publishing, music licensing, syncing, management deals, record deals, royalties, distribution, investors. Those are the things that seem to pop up quite frequently, at least on my desk. And I'm here tonight to answer any questions you might have. And I always listen to music if you play it and give some feedback. But remember, I'm just a lawyer fan guy. I love music, but and my opinion is just my opinion. So, but I always, I definitely respect songwriters and performers, and take my hat off to you for doing what you do.
All right. Well, thanks
And if
for
anybody
that.
ever needs an entertainment or a music lawyer, hopefully you'll look me up.
Is there any chance to ask questions of Ben, or we just?
Absolutely. That's what we're
Yeah,
here
sure.
for.
That's why I'm here. Yeah.
Even more than just listening to music like we usually do, because I know a lot of you guys do have important legal questions, and I know that Ben can be making a whole lot of money just answering those questions. If he booked a session with you, but tonight he's here because I owe him lunch, and so we're going to make this happen. And I know since Will's on the East Coast, let's go ahead and start with Will. So Will, go ahead and get unmuted and ask questions that you want.
Hey Ben, how you doing?
Hey, well, how you doing?
Doing good. So yeah, I've get emails in my inbox a lot from a lot of different places, but it's tough out there trying to decipher who's looking out for you and who isn't. But I have a company right now that's reached out to me. They do a lot of sync and licensing, and they're interested in songs in my catalog, and they've sent me a contract and everything for um, you know, basically signing over my publishing like for a 50, I think they said a 50-50 thing. I don't know if that's a normal rate or anything like that, but just in general, when dealing with like a company like that, what are some things to look out for and ask to kind of cover your back?
Yeah, well, yeah, those are common, very common these days. There's a ton of companies that do sync placement, sync representation. Some of them are more proactive than others. To me, that's important because some are more like music libraries where they'll just take your music and I'm not saying that's bad, but they'll stick it in a database basically of you're in a sea of tunes with a lot of other people's music, and then they just put a bunch of tagging on there just describing your music, your tempo, your beats per minute, whether it's a male vocal, a country vibe, rock, guitar driven, whatever. They put all that. So if some music supervisor goes on their website and put in some search terms, it'll direct them to your music. So, but then some music representation companies are out there kind of scouring the trades and trying to keep up with which productions are looking for music, which TV shows, which commercials, which films are in production and looking for music. And sometimes they'll know or have good relationships with the music supervisors, and they'll pitch your music. They'll try to actually try to find something that really fits and is supposed to just throwing a bunch of stuff against the wall. So I mean that you might want to do a little research just to kind of see a little bit about their background and what kind of placements they've had, and do they actually have a staff over there that'll pay attention and kind of like make you a priority, or is it more one of these things where they're just going to put it in a database? So once you figure that out, that some of these companies want to do non-exclusive deals, which is better because then you can do deals with multiple parties for the same music, and some want it to be exclusive, which means you could only let that company represent whatever songs you give them for a period of time. And then they're the only ones that could pitch it. Even you can't even pitch it, only they can pitch it. So that's, but figure out if it's exclusive, non-exclusive. I prefer non-exclusive. If they insist on it being exclusive and you really want to do it, I wouldn't give them your whole catalog, because then you're putting all your eggs in one basket. And if they don't do anything with your music, you can't make any money. So I maybe if you have to do an exclusive and you have a lot of songs, maybe you can just give them a group, an EP's worth, 10 songs or 5 songs, and just see how it goes and see if they're successful and deliver anything. And then you could actually add something to it. You could add more songs later if you wanted to. But the other thing is the term. As some of these companies will do a 1-year term, some is a 2, some is a 3. I wouldn't go with anything over 3 years for something like that. But you have to be careful because a lot of the times the term will roll over. It'll say a 1-year term, and you think, oh, it's done after that. But then there'll be some other language that say if you don't give written notice within 30 days before the year's up or something like that, it rolls over automatically for another year, and you might be surprised because you didn't know about that fine print. So just always look out for those automatic rollover things. Most of them won't take it out, but you just have to keep track of it in your own calendaring system. Just make sure you have a tickler hey, if there's a year coming up, just back it up 60 days and put something in your calendar just to remind you, hey, this deadline's coming up. Don't want to stay with this company or not. So those are some little pieces of advice. Did that help at all, or do you have specific things you're worried
No, it's
about?
good. I mean, I spoke to someone on the phone. They seemed really interested in my music. They sounded like they had listened to some songs, but like I didn't want to sign anything until I had somebody review the contract. And I know, like, I reached out to a few people out on the West Coast there because the company that reached out to me is based in California, and some of the people I spoke to said that I should get someone that works in California to review the contract because of
Mm. Well, I
know.
don't know if it matters so much about whoever's looking at it. Hey, I'm a lawyer, right? So, but I work for people all over the world. And the paperwork's the same, whether they issue that in New York or LA, the sync agreement's probably going to look the same. And so I don't think that's an issue so much. It's just finding somebody to help you that, you think knows the business and is affordable and you like or whatever. But I look at those things all day long, and I rep sync companies too, so I know both sides of it. But probably more on the artist and the songwriter side. Almost on a daily basis, it seems like those sync deals come up. There's so many of these companies, but I know Jimmy, you made a comment that is the sync income or the fees going down because I think there's probably more opportunities than ever just because of all the there's a lot of productions, but not so much the big things, not like the network shows, but a lot of these internet type shows, web series and YouTube type series, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff that needs music, but I think the budgets are lower. And then of course if it's just background music, some of these people are looking for, a lot of times the reality is they're going to find some kind of AI, stock music. But if they want something that has good, vocals and something that's really unique and is really customized, because a lot of times they want you to create for, they'll give you a brief. They'll say, hey, the show is looking for something like this. If you don't have it already, they're going to ask you if you can create it for them. And by the way, there's no guarantee they're going to use it. So that's just, you put in the time and the effort and they might pass on it. But I don't, I've had clients that had independent music put in some commercials, like, like these Google, big companies, brands, like Apple, Honda car commercials, big brands. Sometimes they're actually looking for indie music. They actually don't want U2 or Coldplay. They could probably afford them, but they'd rather not pay that much. But sometimes they're actually just looking for something new and unique. And I'm not saying it's easy to get those kind of placements, but those things pay a lot, hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's like, winning the lottery or whatever. But I mean, those kind of things do exist, but I found most sync fees range between 500 to 2,500 for background usage kind of things. But if you can get a lot of those, and I have clients that they do a lot, once you get one or two, it seems like it sort of like builds on itself, especially if a lot of these, music supervisors or people that are out there that place music, they know that you're good and they like what you do. Sometimes they keep coming back to you because they have a relationship with you and they can trust you. So, but it's just getting that first one that's actually, sizable. I think sometimes then it's like a domino effect after that. But just like anything else, you just have to keep plugging plugging away. But that's the thing. If you can sign with more than one of these companies to pitch your music, you're building a bigger web, so you have much more opportunities, I think. If you can do, you can do 3 or 4 or 5 non-exclusive deals for the same songs. It, and by the way, sometimes they do these retitles where they're gonna, because you have 5 people pitching your music and they don't want any kind of the chances of 2 people sending it to the same music supervisor on the same day for the same. I mean, it could happen, I suppose, and then nobody knows who should have gotten credit for pitching that. So they'll put these tags on it, either on the front or the back, a letter or a number or some symbol to know that, hey, when I send it to you, yeah, the song's called "I Love You," but there's a 1 at the end. So that came from us, so if you pick that one, we get credit for that. So when you hear about retitles, that's kind of what they're talking about. So that's not a big deal, but some of these companies, if they do non-exclusive, they're going to say we need to have the ability to retitle it. So just to kind of avoid any overlap or confusion in the marketplace. I don't think it's that common, but I guess it's happened.
That's good to know. I've heard that before from different places that they would retitle it.
But if they retitle it, make sure you put in the contract that they're going to tell you how they retitle it, because I'm not saying these people aren't honest, but they might if they put a title that's much different than what you originally titled it, and they place it, and they could actually pitch it, place it, take all the money, and not even tell you about it, and you'd have no way of tracking it. So I'm not saying that happens very often, but I always put in the contract that if they retitle, they have to tell you what the retitle is. So you can kind of like have your own system for checks and balances, just to make sure, because BMI and all these and ASCAP would know. They would know what actually is being placed and stuff too. So, and that's why you just want to know. I mean, it's your music, so and all this metadata that goes out there, whatever that tag is, it's gonna it exists across all these different platforms, because these, you can be in a show now and then you go to YouTube and God knows where it goes after that. All over the internet forever, and it all makes money too. It's all performances. So and that's why it's really important. I'm sure everybody here's probably with ASCAP or BMI or CSAC, but you really need to join those things, because I found that for most of my songwriter clients, they make more money off that back end performance than they do on the front end, unless you get one of those big sync things I just told you about. But you can't really rely on. But I've had clients have music in these MTV shows, like the Jersey Shore kind of things. There's no upfront fee. They won't pay on the front end, but because so many people watch those shows and they keep repeating it, you can make 50 to 100 grand off those, over a couple of years, which is pretty good money, especially if you can get a lot of those.
One of the reasons why I mentioned about things are changing radically is because a lot of the bigger companies, in particular the big entertainment companies, Disney, Warner, those guys, they're working with staff people. And quite often what they'll do is they'll hire somebody for one thing and then say, okay, we want you to be a staff writer. And then all of a sudden that kind of starts cutting out independent artists like ourselves or anybody who's not part of that company. And sure, it's a lot more pressure. And yes, you probably won't make as much money because you're on salary. But it kind of limits your opportunities for placement in a lot of these big things or things that are affiliated with those big companies, and that changes the game a little bit. One of the other things,
I haven't really. I've had a few clients that were in-house writers for some of these companies like Disney or Saban, and it makes a lot of cartoons and things like but I haven't seen it as much lately. And historically, that's what people always wanted, a job like that, and to have a staff gig, and it was a paycheck, and then hopefully, you'd have the writer's share, and you'd build up a big catalog. You could make money for the rest of your life. But I didn't, and I thought these companies got away from wanting to hire anybody because they got cheap. So then they wanted to just outsource it to all these sync placement people. But so you're seeing it go back to more of, a lot of them are hiring people again to kind of keep so they can control the budgets more.
a little bit. One of the problems, of course, is that when they do hire in people, they hire them in as independent contractors. so they don't have to cover all of the.
So okay, yeah,
Yeah, and it gets
right.
kind of weird like that, but they have their own fixed set of people that they use constantly, and it kind of becomes that. I mean, it always has been. You have certain people that are your go-tos, but more and more,
Well,
I've
have you
seen
found out how some of those people, if somebody wanted a job like that, how hard is it to get in the door to get a job like that?
you got to be willing to give a lot. One of the things that in fact, I was actually offered something kind of like that with like a Disney affiliate, and I think you met Aaron. Aaron Liu is one of my buddies, and those guys were talking about, yeah, we want to do all these different things. One of them died. One of them got thrown out of the company. So it was a really kind of a weird thing, which of course took away our potential for some of those things. Although we still did, some work for at least two of those guys, I think, for a little bit, like pilot
Well,
episodes
well,
and things.
well, I don't. I mean, it's just like anything else. You have to do a lot. You have to, maybe wear a lot of hats in this business, or certainly create a lot of content, have a lot of relationships, and just not rely on one lane. I don't think so. That's. I mean, I found that in, at least even in the legal part of it. You could be an expert in something, and which, like, I think I am in music, but then you still have to kind of do a few other things just to keep money flowing sometimes, because it might be tight in one area or slow for a while in one area. But you can't get depressed about it. I mean, if you want to make music, you just have to find, but I think you do have to have sort of a hustle gene, you kind of have, or know somebody that, hey, if you have a manager or somebody that wants to hustle your stuff and push it, great. But most people don't have that. So you kind of have to be able to get out of bed and, really push yourself and do some research. And I think networking is really important. I mean, I know as much as you can do it, I think it's good to try to go to events, and even if they're online, but I think in person's better, and just try to meet people. And if people like you, and especially with collaborations too, I mean, I certainly encourage those, because if you're working with other people, they might have relationships and opportunities you can piggyback on, and that opens a lot of doors too. But in reality, I don't know how hard that is, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe we could talk about that. Is it hard? Because everybody here, I suppose, has collaborated, or maybe even with each other, or is that some Jimmy? Is that still something that you recommend people do too?
Highly recommend that. In fact, that's one of the things that I've been doing more and more as I promote some of the artists that I work with. I'm starting to work with older artists now, and what's been fun is that we did a show. One of the guys said he's done. He has no fan base, and it's never going to happen again. And the other one was looking for fans, and we did a little thing as a sort of like a Nashville round with the three of us, and all of a sudden we tripled our fan base because each one of our fan bases overlapped. And when that happened, now we've got people that are asking us when we're going to do our next show and stuff. So it's exciting to see that. One of them just released his CD. He's not real happy with it, but he released a CD, and he's excited that it got released because he's a little bit older. He's I think he's in his 70s now. But it shows that there is a market for everybody doing anything, as long as you know where your market base and your fan base lies. So I'm excited about that, and seeing the opportunities that are available, even at an advanced age, where 70's not that old anymore, but it's definitely not the teeny bopper kind of things that you see out on the Grammys and stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, if there's certain kind of, because I do have some older clients, and they tell me that if you're trying to make super pop music, or like that K-pop music, or you're trying to write for young hip hoppers or whatever, it's like the business gravitates more towards younger people. Whether that's right or wrong, they just do. They probably just figure those people know more about that kind of music and what's happening on the streets. So, but if you're capable of, I don't really think their ages should be a barrier if you're good at what you do and you stay up on things, you probably can compete, but there is some people are always gonna. It's just, I used to spend a lot of time trying to get record deals for artists. It's harder to do that now because everything's sort of based on social media fans before labels even look at somebody. But I remember, going into the labels some of these A&R people, they're like 20, 25 years old. And then 5 years later, they're gone, because they've aged out, because that's the kind of the mentality of that major label system. So, but again, you just have to, I don't worry about those kind of things, but you're always going to run across people that put up barriers for stupid reasons.
Yeah, but it also shows a little bit about how the marketing works. One of the things that I've done, that I'm not going to talk too much about because of how I did it, but I've written a lot of stuff that is geared towards a much younger market, and when I did it, big zero. So I had someone else do it as part of a project, and she's young, she's pretty, and all of a sudden, bam, everybody loved it. And that just showed me,
Well, like you said, there's market. It's marketing. It's marketing.
It's not about the music. It's really about the whole big, package. And knowing that you've worked with some of these other labels and stuff too, you understand it as well, I'm sure.
Well, I've learned because I've worked with marketing people and radio, especially. I used to have a partner who was a famous radio promoter. And that's all he would drill into my head. It's like, it's all about marketing and promotion. Now, for certain with radio, it is, but I mean, that kind of spills over to anything that you do. But, that was just like that particular guy. That's all he would ever think about is how we're going to market this. What's a unique way to market this, to promote this, because he knew that's how you got to put something in front of people that, like it baits them or catches their attention. Otherwise, they just don't pay attention. Or it's just boring, It can't be boring.
Well, there's a credibility factor with that. I mean, like if I write something that sounds more like black hip hop, I'm obviously not black or young enough to be hip hop. But if I have a young, attractive artist that has some kind of street cred doing it, then
Yeah,
it means something because they have the street cred, even though they didn't write it or they have nothing to do with it. Like Milli Vanilli, the guys that were singing it were awesome, but they didn't exactly look like rock stars. So
no. Well, and the problem, that's the problem with those guys. If anybody remembers, is they were trying, the label was trying to palm them off as actually being the singers of those tracks, and they weren't. They were just doing they were just lip syncing, which is fine, but they didn't want to admit it, and then everybody found out about it. So it looked, and they had their Grammy taken away from them because it was fraud on the public, but I'm sure that's happened quite a bit, by the way. There's all these studio, historically there's been tons of, not so much now, but like, I like this history of music, and then I'm a singles collector, but certainly in the 60s and 70s, there were just tons of these studio groups. They would never even play live. You never even see them. It was before MTV, and a lot of them then the groups would go out on the road and just lip sync it because they weren't even the ones that sang it. So nothing wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You're just not supposed to try to deceive the public, intentionally.
yeah. All right. Well, sorry to get away from that. Will, did you have any other questions? And
I have one. Regarding collaborations, Ben, a lot of my songs have been co-written. I've done them actually with some English folks, and I'm the artist forward facing, and
You're the artist.
right, and
Yeah, and you're doing lyrics or music or both.
I do the lyrics, and
Okay.
I have typically two others that one will do music, one will do lyrics, so co-writing.
Okay.
And then I take the song to my producer. So in this case, so that the album had a contiguous sound with the different tracks. And so I paid the producer, and then I did the marketing, and I paid for that too. So I went back to the co-writers, and we had an agreement, certainly that we split the publishing on this, but it was a little bit of a sticking point with a couple of co-writers when I presented that the cost of production would need to be at
Yeah,
least
deducted,
covered.
you could recoup it.
And then it came down to another point about, well, the marketing part of it too. So in your experience, what is a fair and in terms of, you know, the allocation of finances, and certainly I take on the marketing part of it, but I'd like to be fair to all co-writers.
Well, I mean, I think if this is just being logical about it, and I think it's customary to an extent. If you're the artist and you're spending your own money to promote the music, and that's to the benefit of everybody. That's going to be to the benefit of your co-writers if the song is successful ultimately and make money. But it's just like a record company or anybody else that funds something. They always want to get paid back first because they
Right.
took the risk. They're the ones that came out of pocket. They took the risk for the benefit of everybody. So normally, but you would have to put that in your collaboration agreement or your split agreement.
Right.
And I've done things like that where, if you're where all the collaborators agree that you're able to deduct or recoup that whatever you can verifiably prove that you spent, a reasonable cost that makes, you can't just make something up or be stupid and wasteful about it, but and then charge, but because they have to wait to get paid. So that's one thing. Maybe you could either recoup it all off the top, and then once you've recouped, everybody starts getting paid from that point, whatever their share is, a third, a third, a third. Or, depending on who you're dealing with, maybe you could say, hey, at least part of this money I can recoup, maybe 50% of it. And I'll, it's going to take me longer to get paid back. But but if you're taking the risk as the artist, I totally get why people don't want to stand behind costs, because I know I've been in situations where there never was a net profit because there were too many costs, more costs than
Right.
profit. And then the songwriters don't get anything, but it's always a risk. It's always a gamble. But I just don't, and it probably depends. Sometimes are these friends of yours or these strangers, or if you're dealing with a famous person versus not, it varies who's going to agree to what. But conceptually, what I said is true, and I think most collaborators that are professional in the business would understand that, because you're trying to pump up the value of the song so everybody makes money. Because if you just put something out there, unless you're famous already, it's just, good luck trying to get any traction on that. There's just too much music out there. So you do have
And
to
would that
promote it.
would that cost that you say off the top, in addition to production, potentially
Well, that
include
too. Well, that too. Yeah.
marketing?
If you're because if
Marketing,
it, well, marketing, and if you're paying for the
all
recording
expense.
to make it, yeah, because you're making a record, an audio product that sounds amazing. You have to do that. Otherwise, you can't release it. Nobody's going to sync it, and nobody's going to stream it or buy it if it doesn't sound good. So yeah, there's a cost there, and then and then that's half of the equation. The other half is the marketing, which is could be even more, depending on because again, if you don't market some, to me, in my experience, nothing happens. So yes, you'd have to put in your collaboration agreement that any money that you verifiably spent on production and marketing can be recouped either fully or partially off the top before everybody else gets to share in the profits. Now, but there could be BMI money and stuff like that. You're not going to be able to grab that money. I'm
Well,
talking about whatever you can collect. You have to be the collection agent
that would be
for.
CD Baby, for example. And that would
Yes.
be the last question would be that how do you allocate ownership shares through the distributor, the DSP? Because, well, I think that they pay me directly, but if I'm showing,
Yeah, well, I don't know about CD Baby, but some
or
some of these companies do that split pay, where
that,
if you have two collaborators or a producer or whoever you want, you can put in, hey, when a dollar's earned, instead of paying the whole dollar to me, pay, here's the splits. You could pay this to this percentage. But in the case we're talking about here, you'd actually want the money to come to you, because they're it doesn't go that deep. CD Baby, maybe they can in the future. You could say, hey, CD Baby, once this is earned, or I have earned this amount of money, at that point onward, the split pay could kick in. But I don't think they do it like that yet. It's just like right from record one, the split pay. So if you want to recoup everything, I think you're going to have everything directed to you, and then you'll have the responsibility to account to everybody once you've recouped. And not everybody's going to agree to that, because they may not know you. If you're a stranger to them, they may not trust you to account to them properly. You know what I mean? So I mean, that's why I'm saying it depends sometimes who you're working with. But if I were you, before you sit down and collaborate with somebody, you should be straight up. Just say, listen, I'm the artist. I'm trying to, make this big for everybody, but this is the way I work, or it doesn't make sense. I need to be able to recoup these costs because I'm the one taking the risk. And some people might not want to do it, but I don't know if that's helpful to you.
Yeah, no, basically you're just, it's the way I've been working, but I did get a little bit of pushback from a couple of co-writers.
Well,
It's hard to
what do they give you as the rationale as to why they don't want to agree to it?
There is no rationale. It's very emotional, and poverty consciousness. I mean, I think it's a difficult industry to play in, and some people have the expectation that there's money that there really isn't. The CD Baby doesn't pay much.
No. Well, we're all hoping for a big hit, and again, if people believe in you, or believe in the record that you guys are creating, they may not worry about it. I don't know. Yeah, if you're dealing with either people, these people are just, maybe they're amateurs, or they're selfish, or they're just, I don't know. There's a lot of reasons why people don't want to agree to things, but I'm always hoping that you're dealing with rational people that get the big picture, and have some experience, and maybe they're not as stressed about every single penny right now, because it might take a while to see it, and that's why, again, I think you have to have a lot of content out there, so you're generating. There's more than one thing generating.
Of course. Is it okay to ask you what you charge per hour?
Uh, well, I can tell you, I'll just be transparent about it, because I've been doing this a long time, and believe it or not, I'm probably less than a lot of people, but my strict hourly is $3.50 an hour, but I usually, for like a Jimmy referral or songwriter, these kind of group situations, I offer a $250 an hour discount. But a lot of times when I work for people, not just you guys, but anybody, depending on what it is, it would be I try to come up with a flat fee if I can kind of estimate how much time, or based on people's budgets, I'll come up with a flat fee, and then it's just fixed. And then I do a half-hour consultation for anybody for $100. Because a lot of times that's all people need. And then if they need me for something later that's more serious, then we'll go back more on a traditional fee system. So, but I don't mind doing the consultations, because a lot of times that's all people need is a few questions answered.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Like, would a consultation be like if I wanted you to just look over a contract and tell me?
Well, if I can do it in a half hour, but you got to remember, contracts usually take a little more than that, because what I don't want, I got to be clear about that. I don't like to just scan something if it's a legal document. If you really want me to read it, I want to read it properly, because I don't want you coming after me later and saying I gave you bad advice because I didn't have a chance to really thoroughly, digest it. But I mean, if you just had a few questions about something, and maybe you could say, well, here's a couple provisions, what do they mean? But the problem with contracts is all these provisions work and play off each other, and they're contingent on each other a lot of times, but usually when people do the consultations, I just ask, hey, just be prepared and have your questions prepared, so we don't have to waste a lot of time. But if you really want me to look at something, it might take me more than a half hour. I have to be honest with you about it.
Okay.
Yeah. But it depends on how important it is to you. Because again, if you're doing a long-term sync agreement or exclusive sync agreement for valuable music, I think you really have to make sure you feel like you understand what you're signing and you feel comfortable with it, and you feel like it's fair. My job is just to make sure things are fair, for both sides, hopefully, you know, because everybody's going to be, because you want to be happy with the deal now and 5 years from now. You don't want to feel like, oh man, that was a horrible deal, or you got ripped off, or you just have to worry. You don't want to worry about those things, because even with contracts with me, because that's what I do all day. But I do a contract. If everybody executes it, they're happy. I file it away. I'm hoping I never have to discuss it or worry about it again. But my job is to make sure that the contract is straightforward and clear, because that's what caused the most issues. Is contracts are unclear, or they're vague or ambiguous, and that causes misunderstandings and lawsuits. So my job is to try to make sure everything is clear as possible. And when I draft agreements, I try to make them in plain English, so everybody understands them, because I know sometimes you'll see agreements that are really hard to, too much legalese, but I found that's a little more old school too. Because I've been doing this a long time, but if you still sign like a record contract with something like Columbia Records, it's still 100 pages long. It always has been, and it's super, yeah, it's really hard to read, unless you read it for a living. But I found out, the newer generation, everything's a little more short form, and they try to be a little more easy to understand. And I don't, so I think that actually is good in a way. But sometimes if something's too short, though, I found it leads to misunderstandings, because you leave things out or you don't define them clearly enough. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, well, keep me in mind if you ever need some help. I mean, I try to be fair, and I just want everybody to be happy and feel like they got good advice,
Can I double dip one last question quickly?
Yeah.
I've got a contract with a British company who's a sync agent, and it's for 2 years. I didn't have a lawyer look at it. I went through it, and it seemed kind of reasonable to me.
Was it a non-exclusive or exclusive?
It's exclusive.
Okay. And it was only for the songs that you provided or gave them. They
Only
didn't
one song. It was only one
just one.
song.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he took. And but there's only accounting annually, which we're beyond that date now. I'm going to kind of write to him shortly. But my question is, if so I've got 2 years, I've got another year. If they were, I mean, I don't think that they're a legitimate company, because I've seen some of their placements, but if they were to use the song somewhere, is there a place would it be TuneFind if you were to just do a basic search to say, well, was this song ever used somewhere?
Um, well, I'm not as experienced with these tracking companies like you just mentioned. But I mean, because I hope that whoever you're dealing with is transparent and honest with you. And I put in agreements that if they're going to sync anything, they should, that they get your approval first.
All right.
And then give you a copy of the contract so you know what it is.
Yeah, I've got.
That way you know what's happening. Because if they're doing everything behind your back and you have no input on it, yeah, there's the chances are they don't tell you about it, or they forget to tell you about it, and you might miss out on it. But I guess I'm always hopeful that you're gonna keep you in the loop so you know exactly what's going on. But I guess there are tracking companies, based on the coding and the metadata and all that, where you could find certainly if something is played on one of these big TV shows and network shows, there's probably an easy way to find out real quick if that's your song. But I don't know. Are you thinking that they're making placements behind your back?
I don't
No.
know, but some operations like they're escaping me now. You have access to their back end system. You can go in and you can actually see has it's been pitched, so it's quite transparent for the
Good.
artist. This company has none of that.
Okay.
So I mean, it's just like it's up to whatever they tell me, basically.
Oh, but do you have a relationship that's good enough that you can say, hey, it's been a year, is anything going
Yeah, no,
on?
I can check in with him, but we don't talk like every month.
Okay.
Not at all.
Because that's part of their job. They're repping you. So I would think what's the big deal for them to just, send you an email or even have a call or text or whatever saying, yeah, this is what's happening, nothing's happening, or this is what's happening, or here's a little list of who we pitched it to, and we're awaiting responses, or this is what they gave back. I mean, for me, when I've ever done like soliciting for somebody, but more so, like I said, trying to get people a record deal or a publishing deal, I always keep a spreadsheet of like, hey, this is who I sent it to. This is when I sent it. This is this is their contact information. This is when I followed up. This is what their response was. Or they passed or they did want to do it, so And then I always either send that to people or maybe like you say, yeah, there's a portal where they can log in and see what's going on. I mean, yeah, you want transparency with whoever you work with, whoever you work with. So maybe in the future, if you do agreements with people like that, try to make sure there's maybe more maybe updates, like monthly updates, quarterly updates, not just
Right.
accountings, but
Minimum.
where they actually have to give you written updates or let you have a system where you can log in to see what's happening, as opposed to
Right.
just you don't know. That's never a good feeling unless the good things are happening. Okay. But yeah, I mean, to me, if you're not seeing anything, chances are nothing's happening. But I'm
Right.
not saying that's
for sure.
true. But even then, it's like sometimes and that's the other thing you can put in these agreements when they're exclusive. I forgot to mention, if you're giving somebody an exclusive, I usually put in, hey, listen, let's say it's a 3-year deal. If you haven't done anything with this song, made me a minimum $500, $1,000, or whatever, within 18 months, a year, maybe 2 years, I can pull the song out if I want to, because you're
Right.
not doing anything with it.
Right.
So that's not fair to just sit on it. So, but you would have to build that in, kind of like
Right.
a reversion clause, because they rarely just put that in voluntarily. But most of them are actually open to that as long as you give them a fair amount of time. It varies because when you pitch things, it just takes a while. Sometimes it's instantaneous, but usually there's a waiting period.
Right. Okay.
Or
Thank
they're
you.
looking for the right opportunity, you know?
Oh, yeah, I'm
And
sure.
if you give them 10 songs and then, if they're scouring all these opportunities, it could be a while before they found a good fit. And what I've never understood, and maybe some of you had experience in this, especially, some of these sync companies rep so many writers, and probably if an opportunity comes up for a network TV show background usage in a scene, they need a rock song, for instance. There's probably like 50 clients that would fit that bill. Are they going to pitch all 50 of them at the same time? Or are they going to prioritize somebody? That part I don't understand, So a lot of that probably just has to do
Right.
with your relationship with these people. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but sometimes I just wonder if they get overwhelmed with music, and like how do they keep track? And you know what I mean? Like how do they know if you've got 100,000 songs you
Right.
represent, unless you really know
Yeah.
every one of those songs backwards and forwards, and an opportunity comes like, how are you going to know to go back in your files and pull that? But unless it's the thing you just heard a second ago, you know what I mean? But that's a part of the business I don't understand.
I don't either. So potluck.
So a lot of it is, to me, is communication. Not being a pest, but sort of being a pest. You know what I mean? Just like staying, every couple months, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Just so you're at the forefront of their, so they're not forgetting about you, and they know you haven't forgotten about them. So because I think a lot of times people just get lost in the shuffle. It's not intentional. It's just they just rely too much on that other person just going to do all the work. Same with managers or whatever. Oh, this manager is going to do everything for me. No, you really need to communicate with them. And so it's a two-way street, I think. And especially, and remember, these people rep multiple people, and you have one career, so you really have to stay on top of it. Unless you're famous, when you're famous, these things just fall into your lap. But until you get to that point, I really think you have to stay on top of people.
Yeah.
Hey, any other questions before we get started? Okay, so since Will's on the East Coast, let's go ahead and start with Will. Steve, what you got?
Okay. This is called Full Speed Ahead by Will Sims. Let me bring up the lyrics here, and then I'll share sound. Let's see. And give me a moment here. Gotta move some windows around. Whoops. Let's see. Sharing the screen. I have to share sound. There we go. Tell me if the level's right on this one.
Heartbeat singing in the dead of night, loose like a cannon on a hillside, shamelessly waiting for an explanation. My emotions feeling like a sharp knife. Cardboard killers on TV now, grinning 'cause they know that they can bring you down. Drifting closer to the darkest days, we're all lost, waiting to be found. So let's take a ride while we have the time. Don't know where, but we can drive all night. Don't care if the light is red, we're already dead. So let's close our eyes and full speed ahead. Talking like I'm crazy and I don't know why. If this world was a wall, then I'd be a fly. I can't understand what I'm searching for. We all try our best just to get by. So let's take a ride while we have the time. I don't know where, but we can drive all night. Don't care if the light is red, we're already dead. So let's close our eyes and full speed ahead.
Let's see. I gotta.
Is that's Will's song?
Okay.
Was that Will's song?
You can unmute Will.
Yes, that was my song. Sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm a rock guy, so I really like that. You know, I always like hooky, guitar riffs, and there was that, and the vocals were strong. And lyrics, to me, I was getting, well, you talk about driving, so I was getting a visual about. Certainly, that's the kind of song for sync that I could definitely see being used in a scene, whether it's a commercial or a TV show or movie where somebody's driving. And it just, because it feels like you're getting from this point to that point to that point. Yeah, I don't know. It was a really good, solid rock song. And even that song, even was sort of structured in a way it could be like a radio song too, I think. But I thought it was quite strong.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you doing everything on that? The guitars, vocals, or what's your role in that?
I did some guitar, but mostly vocals on that one. There was a lot of session players on that one.
Okay. Yeah, but you wrote the riff, the music?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. So I like that a lot.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Cameron DeVries, and this is called The Man Inside. So, share my screen.
Sham's on the East Coast. Should we go with him instead?
Yeah, I was thinking we have Sham next because he's on
Oh,
the East
okay. I'm
Coast also.
sorry, I missed that. Um,
And Sham, you can
this
say
is
something about it if you
called
want.
Burn It Down. Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead, Sean. Yeah.
There you go.
Hey Ben, thanks so much for doing this.
Hey, you're welcome. You're welcome.
I had a question, just a follow-up question on the retitling. Um, if something is retitled, what happens with publishing? Like, does the sync agency or whatever register it with a PRO under the different title?
Yes, yeah, they would, but they would just say that they're administering that particular version with that, the retitle, but they could only act as an administrator. They're not a collection agent for that one usage. That's because they're not an owner. They're not a publisher. That's the thing about these sync agreements. Be very careful, but 99% of them just say they're basically an agent for you, and they're going to take whether it's 50%, which is pretty standard, but it could be less, it could be 25, 30, 40% if they get the placement. But they're allowed to collect. And by the way, some of them can't collect on BMI and ASCAP. Some of those contracts say they're only collecting on the licensing fee itself, but a lot of times it's small, insignificant. So a lot of them, yes, would want to be able to collect their percentage of the publisher's share of the performance BMI or ASCAP, but they would just register that one song for that one usage under that particular title. And then it would be, since you're the writer of it, it would fall, it would be in your registration database, I would think. Are you finding, have you encountered this situation yet, or you're trying to figure out how it works in general?
Well, I had some placements like a while back, but on some like network TV and stuff, but and those things were retitled, and I didn't really give it much thought back then.
But if
But
they're earning money, though, you would care about it. But were you seeing any money, like part of it, coming to you? Because
yeah, I mean, I
BMI and
guess
ASCAP should still account to you under that title for whatever share you're supposed to get.
yeah, I mean, I probably got like $5,000 from those songs, but through, I think it was ASCAP, but so that title that they retitle then would have you as the writer and then half of the publishing or
Yeah,
something.
it would just say, this percentage of the publishing income they get to collect it. They get to collect, or it's payable to them, or you're allowing, I don't know if BMI or ASCAP might say, hey, is this fine with you? Because this is really your money, you're the one who's a member. Is this okay? These people are saying that they want to be paid on this. And if you signed a document that gave them the ability to be the administrator on that, they could show that to BMI or ASCAP. But a lot of time, I don't know if BMI ASCAP, I really don't know behind the scenes how it works sometimes in practice, but it could be, either they're just representing to be ASCAP that you rep your song because you've signed paperwork that allowed them to collect on this particular track title, or ASCAP's going to ask you, hey, is this okay? Because because this is part of your money that's going to be going to them. Is this okay with you? Did you agree? So I thought your question might be, does that last forever? Because sometimes there might be a cap on how long they could collect on it too. But usually it is forever if it earns forever, if they got the placement for you. So some of these retitles, they're still on the books, right? With ASCAP, with you as a writer. The ones you're talking about, the old ones, they're still there, right? They're still potentially earning. Hello? Does it freeze?
I think Sham froze.
Oh, okay. I thought it was me. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think he froze on his side.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't quite sure where he was going with that question.
Okay, well, hopefully he can hear what's going on.
Do you want me to do a different song until he gets back up, or do you want to just play it?
Yeah,
It
let's
looked
just
like he
wait
went
a
off there.
little bit and see what we can do.
I
And,
think he
yeah, he just dropped out, so
dropped out. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, let's
Let
go ahead
me,
and bring up. You said you had Cameron next. After that,
yeah, we can have anybody. Yeah, we can do Cameron. Cameron,
and
you
then
want
Art
to
Corey,
say
good to
something?
see you here. I don't know where you're from. If you're put in the chat, let us know where you're at, and if you're on the East Coast, we can put you up to early.
Yeah, he doesn't have a song, so.
Okay,
And-
Sham's back. Okay,
Yeah, I'm just
Hey,
trying to.
sorry, my computer's plugged in. For some reason, it's not charging. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Where are we here?
all right, you can bring Sham back.
Here we go. Let me share my screen.
Thank you for that, Ben. What I heard.
Okay.
This is called Burn It Down.
Fade the world into a backdrop. We don't need no more ticking clocks. Yeah, let's drive, we're not gonna stop. We'll elevate above the gridlock. Feeling like this is no way to fake it. You shouldn't exist, you're a freak of nature. Knowing your kiss is like being naked. Let's leave the world behind in vapor. Vapors and vapors. I see the sparks in your eyes, bright burning like wildfire, like all the stars in the night. Burn it down, burn it down, burn it down. We can leave the noise all behind. The way that we just align, we can go there anytime and burn it down, burn it down, burn it down. There's no way I can quit this habit. When I'm with you, we align like magnets. Now every day I'm so distracted, cause everything's lame with you subtracted. Feeling like this is no way to fake it. You shouldn't exist, you're a freak of nature. Knowing your kiss is like being naked. Let's leave the world behind in vapors. I see the sparks in your eyes, bright burning like wildfire, like all the stars in the night. Burn it down, burn it down, burn it down. We can leave the noise all behind. The way that we just align, we can go there anytime and burn it down, 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 burn it down. We can go there anytime, burn it down, burn it down, burn it down. Leave the world behind in vapors. Break down the walls of our old cages. Let's do it now, get far away, yeah. Yeah. Let's leave the world behind in vapors. Behind in vapors, yeah. Let's leave the world behind in vapors. I see the sparks in your eyes, bright burning like wildfire, like all the stars in the night.
So that one was Sean, right? That's Sean's tune?
Yes.
All right, okay.
Yeah, that's mine. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I really like that. So I mean that had a real modern sound to it, and lyrically too, it seemed like it was certainly geared a little more towards, well, I mean anybody could relate to it, I suppose, but I could definitely see the youth market maybe gravitating towards that one. It just has that kind of a sound to it, and it's kind of reminded me a little bit of sort of like what a Linkin Park might do, even though they're back again, with a female singer now. Yeah, but I really liked that a lot. I mean, it had hooks and it had some interesting lyrics. And is that something that you're trying to push yourself to as a single, or is that more for sync purposes or for somebody else? Or what's the driving force for that song?
Um, so I'm working on a pile right now of 25 songs, and that's one of them. I'm trying to be an artist.
Okay.
Um,
Does everything you do kind of have that sound to it, or is this just a unique song in that
it's sort
respect?
of it all kind of is in that voice, I guess. Artistic
So that's your
voice.
and that's your voice too, right? Singing it?
Yeah, everything's me.
Yeah, okay.
Um, so yeah, I'm just really trying to look for opportunities, either and produce, I made my living as a producer and engineer for many years, and then when Spotify came along and kind of killed that for me, because people just didn't have the budgets anymore to work how we used to work. But I'm trying to figure out a way to get my foot in the door to be like working with bigger artists, like in a producing, songwriting
Yeah.
kind
Well,
of
I mean
way, and
that's a good
also.
example of it. Yeah, I mean in that, I'm sure maybe you know better than me sort of like who the hot artists are in that genre, the up and coming ones. And I've always found if you want to be, because I work with a lot of producers. I mean, if you're again, it's always different when you're already, a famous person, people kind of come to you, but otherwise I always think it's good to try to find the up and coming artists that hopefully they're signed, because then they have an outlet for their music. But not these days, you don't necessarily have to be. There's some people have a lot of followers and they can release something and get millions and millions of streams, or it turns into other opportunities like syncs because of their fan base. But I always think it's better if an artist is signed to a label because then there's a better chance it's going to be promoted. But a lot of times artists they need songs. They might have the right look or the right sound, but they don't have the great music or the great production. So they do need to work with somebody that they could collaborate with. But of course, there's a lot of producers out there. I'm not sure if I just, that was just some, if it were me and I was a producer trying to find some opportunities, I'd probably try to find some way to find out what artists are on the major labels, that are sort of like new and maybe in development, and then see if because a lot of times it's easier to get to people like that too. Their managers or the artists themselves sometimes you can go direct, send them direct messages, and they'll actually respond, because they're not famous and stuck up yet, or they don't have as many barriers in the way. So, but I don't know. I think whatever you're doing here, it's good enough that I would think people would it's certainly at least listen to it, and then hopefully you could find some opportunities like that, especially if you already have a production background, you know how to do it.
Well, it's just, I don't know, it's been my experience that it's very hard to get anything even in the door. Like they just don't accept unsolicited material.
Well, that's why I'm saying you got to find somebody that's maybe not at this level, but yeah, but it's a little different now because these days, I don't, if I were you, I would try to find the artist's manager, the artist themselves, or somebody on their team, um, as opposed to trying to go to like a record company head of A&R or something. Yeah, those people are just, even with me, there's sometimes they don't respond and it's rude, but it's just the way it is. So, but I found if you can, if you send people the right message and you have the right subject line and you're just like approach them properly and respectfully, and a lot of times people will pay attention to you just because you approach them right. And it is a numbers game too. Yeah, maybe 7 out of 10 people are just going to blow you off. So you just can't get discouraged about it. But a lot of it is just researching, and then of course once you've had any kind of success. So if you're on Billboard chart, everybody pays attention to you. And remember, there's 100 spots on Billboard singles. So I still think it's possible to do, because you don't have to be on a major label anymore to chart either. It's just now they used to compile it on radio and sales only. Now it's based on all the impressions and the followers and the YouTube views and everything together. So there is a lot of artists that are on the charts that are not signed to labels, or they're on smaller labels, and those are the ones I'm talking about that maybe might be easier to get to. But but a year or two from now, they might be super famous, and the fact that you got involved with them early on and you developed a relationship with them, they take you along because they like you, they trust you, and you deliver the goods. Um, so I don't, it's frustrating because there's not a lot of loyalty in this business either. But if you're really good, I just figure you can make it. But
Yeah.
but it takes a lot of, like, it gets exhausting sometimes, and it gets frustrating, and I totally get that. But I don't even know if that has anything to do with really listening to the music, but it's just because I work with producers and engineers and mixers, and so I can relate to what you're talking about, because they're not all of them are big. Some of them are trying to break in.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
And do you mix too? Do you
Yeah,
mix?
I'm a
Okay.
mixer, yeah.
Yeah. Do you do remixes?
Not really like that's more like a DJ kind of
Okay.
remixes, you
Okay.
mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just did, because a lot of times it seems like there's a lot of people that in labels are looking for a special remix of a song, and then sometimes those remixes do better than the original versions. But not that you get pigeonholed as a remixer, but I just didn't know if that was another arrow in your quiver as far as the skill you could provide to people.
Yeah, it's not something I've done, but I mean I probably could do it okay, but it's not like something I think of
Yeah,
myself as.
you would know, because I have no idea how much effort and it takes to do this kind of stuff, because I'm not a creator.
Yeah. Also, like, do you have any advice about how to get in the door, like with publishers, publishing
It's
companies?
the same way. I mean, it's just like have a couple of amazing songs, and then try to find. I mean, it's all common, it's not that hard to find these people, because if you do some research, you can usually find an email or an Instagram or a Facebook or something where you can direct message people and just say, "Hey, this is what I do, and here's a sample of my work, and I see what you've done, and I think I might be a good fit over there. Can you just take a minute to listen, 30 seconds to listen to something, and if you like it, I've got more of that." And I think a lot of times it's just how you approach people, and they know that you respect their time, and that you know how to you just know how to approach him. Because to me, I usually just send one song to people, and you're taking a gamble there, maybe three. But if you've got some amazing killer song, and then people like it, they're just gonna say, "Wow, what else do you have?" And then because if you send too much to people, they're just already they're overwhelmed to the point where they're just like, "Oh, too much. It's going to take too much time. I'll just listen to that later," and then they never do. So and also I think you need to send it in the format that they can just click and listen, like SoundCloud or something. Not something where they have to download it, or it's one of these platforms that you have to sign up for, or have a password for, or whatever. You have to just make it really easy.
Right.
And you can't be stressed out about worrying that someone's gonna rip your stuff off either, because I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't want to send my music out. What if somebody steals it?" I mean, I just don't see that happening very often. And if you're that precious about your music, I don't think anybody's ever gonna hear it.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about that.
Some
But
people are, though. Some people
yeah,
are.
yeah. So is Disco a platform that you would,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It just goes good.
yeah.
In fact, I found that seems to be quite common. But I'm more familiar with SoundCloud, but I know a lot of people have used Disco. Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think a lot of it's just trying to find, try to research some publishers, and then see who else they work with, and try to find out who an A&R person is, or anybody that works over there that can get an email or whatever for. But hopefully it's a creative or an A&R person, because that's their job really, is to find writers. And it's just, I think they just get overwhelmed sometimes. But I mean, I just went through this because I'm working with a pretty well-known songwriter who he's signed to Sony Music, but he has a side project with a guy in the band, which is a famous band. and then they have a side project and they do a lot of sync music, and they've had a lot of placements, but so I'm repping his co-writer, and because he doesn't have a publishing deal, but the other guy does, and the other guy's a famous singer-songwriter that's had hits. Um, but I was, and so I was approaching a few publishers to see if they'd be interested, and they were all telling me, hey, the reality right now is that, we're just understaffed, and we're good at collecting and answering the phone, but we really are not that good at like trying to create opportunities for the music. We kind of hope that you do that yourself. So I'm wondering, like, what's the good of having a publisher then? If I got to do it all myself.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just, I'm not saying they're all like that, but it's just, unfortunately, it's just, you can't, I don't know. It's just strange, but I still think it's better to be with a publisher or a label than not. But I think even if you are, you just can't assume they're going to do all the work for you. I still think they want you to, keep pitching, keep creating, keep your social media up, and keep trying to create opportunities for yourself. And then it seems like every companies are better at like trying to, take what you're doing and make it bigger, as opposed to like creating something from zero. That I found that's what they don't seem to want to do anymore. But if you got
Yeah.
something in motion, they know how to like make it bigger.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, we should move on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next up is Cameron DeVries, and the song is The Man Inside.
Do you want to say something about it, Cameron?
Oh, thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Jimmy. Yeah. So, thanks, Ben, for coming. This is really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
I came to your the last time you spoke, and yeah, I made a lot of notes, and it was really helpful. And then
I
online.
hope I hope I'm not repeating myself.
No, I don't think so. Well, today was
Okay.
cool because of the Q&A portion, so that I learned some new stuff. Yeah, there was an artist online on Reddit, and she was like a big underground artist, and she asked this, really important question because she was signing with a major label, and so it was like a few days after you talked, so I just basically just regurgitated the notes, like almost verbatim, but it ended up being like the most popular answer. Well, I mean, obviously thanks to you, but it ended up being like the most popular answer to your question because everyone else was giving her like, stuff without like context, and it was like the stuff that you talked about last time with the reversion clauses, and just making sure that you read the fine print, that you make sure that you retain some control, or at least have some option where they don't own the masters in perpetuity, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So I think that was helpful for her.
Well, and creative control, or some creative control, I think is important for artists. But I'm going through that right now. I'm signing a band who is a really good rock band, but they really don't have much of a following, and they only have one offer, but it's a new company that's part of Universal that's willing to make a record with them and promote it. So we're going to do the deal. But in the deal, it did say that if there were, that everything's mutual, but if there was ever any dispute about a creative decision, the label wanted to have final say over it. So, and the one thing that I thought in particular artists should always have a final say in is the visual part of it, because that's a maybe picking the single, or which song's going to have a video. I think sometimes you're just going to have to give into the label on that because they're paying for it. But I don't think you want somebody to tell you what the imagery should be on your artwork and stuff like that, but so I don't know so I feel pretty strongly about that thing, and that in particular. So if you can try to keep some kind of creative control, I think it's important. But the problem is if you're brand new and you have no history of it, and they're taking a chance on you, and they're putting a lot of money into it, they don't, some people might come up with some ridiculous type of artwork that's not commercial, or might be offensive or something. So I think maybe labels have been through that, and they're a little sensitive about that, and that's why they still want to have final say. So it just depends. I guess we got to listen.
Oh, this is real quick.
I'm gonna take what I
Oh, I think
Gonna take what I
Sorry,
um,
what? Go
my
on.
my friend who I wrote the song about, he was in prison for 40 years. He was in a gang, and he's a professional artist. I met him. He had a big art show. I saw his picture in the paper, and I was like, I gotta go meet that guy, because I knew I'd learned something. He had a spiritual awakening in prison, and he was in solitary confinement for like a year, and it was a great experience meeting him, and we still talk, but basically, so just to keep it to synthesize it, he had when he had this, you know, profound transformation in solitary confinement, it had to do with basically every time he would have like a desire arise in his mind, he just wouldn't follow it. So he just started like he was in this terrible, isolated place, and he just stopped basically following any desires, and he just kind of he would like take an inventory, like, is this like a wholesome desire, like a spiritual desire, or is this like a, like a lower desire? And he just kept like just not following any desires. And then within a year, he got done, and he had such a profound inner peace and joy. And that's, now he teaches at prisons, teaches art programs. He's just the most loving, one of the most loving, wise people I've met. You meet people with real wisdom, and it's somewhat rare, because like people that really embody it. A lot of us we have moments, where we're wise, but he's one of those guys. He's at that place where, yeah, he lives it, and it's really so. This was about that process he went through in solitary confinement of like meeting his basically his inner demons and having to wrestle with them and overcome them. So yeah, just wanted
Wow.
to share that conversation.
gonna take what I have lost, leave it where it is. I'm gonna look for something new, something deep and something true. I've been going down the same roads, I ain't finding anything more than a lot of lines and circles. I need something I can't ignore, so I look toward the places I fear, just to see if there's anything there. And I let go of what I never could find. I was looking out till I saw that life is a door. It only opens from the inside. I think I played this game too long. I still remember all the rules, and I don't have the skill to break them without looking like a fool. I'm gonna take a little detour, gonna go find another way out where there are fresh ideas, people have something to say. Two lives, divergent questions, the two ways that I could go. Nobody from the outside can speak the answers in my soul. And I look toward the places I fear, just to see if there's anything there. And I let go of what I never could find. I was looking out till I saw that life is a door. It only opens from the inside.
Oh, okay, Cameron. Yeah, so yeah, that's lyrically, I mean, that's a really deep kind of a song. So, and the way you're performing it there acoustically, you can hear the lyrics, and so yeah, it's a moving kind of a song. I guess my only thing suggests, I don't know if you're interested in doing that, but I think if you because there's probably some I mean that could be a commercial song, I think, too, because there's a lot of melody in it too. So I didn't hear it. I'm not a songwriter, but a lot of times there's a bridge at some point. Did you have a bridge, or it just was verse, chorus, no bridge in that song?
Oh yeah, there's a bridge. Yeah. It's
There is
still
a bridge.
fun.
Okay.
It's a five. It's a five.
But
minute.
but I just okay. I just saying you might consider maybe expanding and making this a bigger production, because I know now it's a stripped down acoustic thing, but you know, because it seems like it might have some commercial appeal. I didn't know if you had plans to do a full production on it, or is that just the way you want it to be presented to the world?
Oh, yeah. I was planning on producing it this year, and you know how life is. The money kind of fell through, and I needed to kind of put it toward my household expenses. So it wasn't a big, you know, like a big difficult decision, but it was a little disappointing. But so that's just, yeah, it's just me kind of sitting down, just getting the song down with guitar.
Okay. Well,
But
I think it's
definitely
good
there's
enough.
plans
You might, you know, at the right time. I don't think it's time sensitive because of the material, the topic of it, but it just seemed like one of those songs that you might have some more chances of getting some action on it if it's you know, more fully produced. But again, that might even change it. I mean, I like acoustic stuff, so I just don't know. It depends what you're trying to do with the song. You know, especially if you're trying to sync it. I think a lot of times they want a little more of a finished production than, but you know, some things they want it really raw. But I think it leans a little more towards the fuller production for certain things, just the sound quality in general. But I think it's really good, and obviously it's meaningful.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Okay, next up we have Gilles Levet. And Gilles, you want to talk about your song? This is called Device.
This was just a fun tongue-in-cheek song about our attachment to our phones. I don't know whether it really has a commercial use. It was just one that we enjoyed doing, and so that's that. I thought maybe it might have something like an ad or something, maybe.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Let's see.
Do you have the lyrics?
Oh, where are you? I'm lost without you. I don't know where I am. No one to call, I feel panic rising. I might need your advice. Device, demanding device. I'm riding a dopamine high. I'm losing myself in the metaverse. Phone am I? Am I phone am I? Oh, I don't know. You're my demise, I just can't let you go. I see the world through your eyes. I come at your call, you know everything. You're my true guiding light. Device, demanding device. I'm riding my dopamine high. I'm losing myself in the metaverse. Phone am I? Am I phone am I? I don't know. You're mining me for all my data, spying on my friends. You've become a traitor. You're supposed to make my life much better, but keeping up with all of this is so much pressure. I'm losing my mind and I don't know the time. When did you start to define me? Device, demanding device. I'm riding a dopamine high, losing myself in the metaverse.
You did give me the high sign, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay. I was
Yeah, that's
impressed.
fine. Yeah, I never know if you're seeing that, but
Okay.
so yeah, gee, that's a definitely a fun, different kind of song, you know, and the lyrics are fun and unique. Um, and that's you singing or somebody, is that you? Yeah,
Mhm.
so the delivery's, you know, really, really cool and interesting. I mean, you know, I think you never really know what these songs. I mean, there's definitely it's a melodic song. It's catchy. It's got um kind of like is that like a bossa nova feel? What
Little
is
bit going
the
on. Yeah. The reference was Corinne Bailey Ray, if you know her.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I know the Spin the Record song.
Bit of a, yeah, a little bit kind of, I don't know, it's not hip, it's, yeah, it's
But it's
kind of
kind
got
of
a
like
bossa to it.
yeah, Sergio. I always like Sergio Mendes. Some of his stuff
Would
kind of
that?
had that backbeat. Yeah. Hmm?
Yeah, yeah,
What's that?
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so
No, no.
I mean I think it has possibilities for I think it has possibilities for sure, but it's just a fun song and it is talking about the phone and the device and all of that. And I guess it's just finding the right situation for that song, but you know, but it's certainly melodic enough and interesting enough. I think it probably has some potential, but yeah, it's cool. I've never heard anything quite like that one.
That's okay.
So like when you do you give a song like that to those like those the British sync company or is this
No, I
something
haven't run
you're
this
still
by
keeping under
him.
wraps?
Yeah, no, I haven't run this by him. I've got some new music with this particular producer and I've got about 5 or 6 tracks, and I was gonna cherry pick maybe 3 of them to send over to see what he had to say. He picked a ballad last time, and I've got a couple of other ballads, but I just thought this is a little more out of the box.
Yeah.
And I
It
haven't
is, but you know, but I've also found, and I mean, it depends how much material you have, but you never really know until you play things for people, you know. So if they're going to listen, I would play this because you never know. They might say, you know, we have an opportunity for this, or that, you know, or they find it because it's just different. But I don't really know how much material you have and how you decide what you want to cherry pick to play for people. But
oh yeah, I mean,
in a
if
perfect world, they'd hear everything. However, you have to be careful because, especially with the exclusive situations, you don't want to drop a bunch of material in there just and then they don't do anything with it. I think they'd have to really feel like they have something in mind for that, or like I said before, you know, put a reversion in where if they can't find anything for it, you can get it back. So you're not, you know, this maybe isn't a time sensitive thing, but you just don't want to waste too much time in general. You know, especially if you're making a living off your music, you know, it's like the clock's always ticking on that. So I don't like it when people just don't do anything with your music, you know, for a long period of time. You should get it back. But you know, but a lot of times people really, these companies really might feel like they do have they could get, you know, they want to take a shot with it. So you might, you know, if they're excited about it, it might be cool to let them do it.
yeah, no, I wouldn't have a problem
Or
with it because otherwise I
or even like a Corinne Bailey Ray or some other artist like that. You know, a long shot, I suppose, but sometimes they might or or who's the other girl? Uh, I'll think about her name probably, but she was related to the sitar player, his daughter.
oh
That
yeah, Nora
Come
Jones. A
Away
lot of
with
my
Me.
stuff works in
Yeah,
that
Nora Jones. Nora
genre.
Jones.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A
Because
lot of my
sometimes she does some music. I don't know how much. I know she collaborates, but sometimes some of the things I've heard her do are outside of the box too, like that.
yeah, yeah. So what determines whether someone like yourself would pitch an artist's music to a label or
I don't really do it. It's just it's too I'd rather find
time
a
consuming?
manager or a publisher. Yeah, it's just like I said, that one artist that I am working with, it's a rarity just because the manager is somebody I work with a lot, and the other co-writer on this stuff is a famous person. So it just seemed like, okay, you know, I'll take a shot with this. And I work with them in other aspects
Mm.
too that they pay me for, but normally it's just too hard to pitch writers to, not that I don't want to do it, but I just like, just don't have the time.
Sure. Yeah, it's like what we're doing.
But again, I know there's barriers, but I still think if you're professional and you approach people right, I don't think it's always this, no, we don't take unsolicited material. Not that's just, that's just to keep the amateurs out that don't know how to approach, because there's a lot of people that just waste people's time, and they just don't like that. And also there's been people that have intentionally tried to sue labels and publishers saying, oh, I sent you my stuff and you ripped me off, I'm suing you. And they just don't want to deal with hassles like that. So that, they'd rather it come from somebody they know. That is true. But because there's all these different ways, when I first got in the business, you had to make a meeting with somebody and play it for them. But now there's all these ways, and people are more accustomed to it, to listen, just like we're doing this call. Everybody's remote, so I have found that the doors are a little more open than they used to be, but you still have to be smart about you're doing your research, and so so if you do approach somebody, it's for a good reason, and they understand why you're approaching them. It's not just like throwing against the wall to see if it will stick kind of thing. They don't like that.
Right. Makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, yeah. Next up, we have Marcella Riley. This is called John the Con.
Hello.
Hi.
So yeah, my song is so I have a background in comedy, and so sometimes I write parodies. And so this song is a parody. There's another song that came from an original song. All the lyrics are this. What you're gonna hear is all from me. And then this version, I played all the instruments and everything. But yeah, I basically just put stuff on YouTube. When I have the income, I will get it mixed and mastered and put it on probably DistroKid. But otherwise, yeah, I don't really, in terms of copyright things, I don't really know how that works with parodies and comedy and stuff like that. So yeah, once you hear it, I guess you'll probably have a better idea. But I wrote it last year, right after the presidential debates, and it's about a con man who's so good at lying that he just cons his way into heaven. He lies his way into heaven.
Okay.
Well, he's a kind, he's a fake. Claim he can repair your strength. He'll look for the broken ones, paint the savior in his brain. Well, he's a kind, he knows it all. Thinks he'll be the brilliant king. Ask him to clarify, and he can't explain a single thing. Con, teller of tales. Con, he'll go far now. Con, he'll always win. John the Con Man, this is the plan. Well, he's a kind, he's a cheat. Try to see him eye to eye. Nicest guy a friend can buy. They'll say while serving time. Con, teller of tales. Con, he'll go far now. Con, he'll always win. John the Con Man, this is the plan.
Oh, is it Marcel?
Yes.
Oh, Marcel. Okay, yeah. So, well, by the way, just so I'm clear, because usually when people tell me they make a parody, they're taking a famous song and then they're adding new funny lyrics to it, like Weird Al does, and then that's a parody. But you're basically taking somebody's original copyright and doing a derivative version of it, so you can't necessarily take writing credit for it, or sometimes even monetize it because it's their song and you might need permission, and there's a fine line there. And even people like Weird Al usually go to the original songwriters, and he's famous now, so but most time people like fine, but he actually gets permission, whether it's Eminem or somebody like that, or it was Michael Jackson back in the day, just to make sure that they didn't have any issue with it. Most of them were honored and thought it was funny, right? But this song, this sounds like an original song to me. It's a but the subject matter is sort of like parody-ish, and you're kind of like talking about a con man and maybe a politician or something. Read between the lines. So I just wasn't sure when you said parody. Is it the first thing I'm talking about or the second thing? Because if this is your original song, you wrote it, so you own the copyright in it.
All the lyrics are mine. It's the music that is not mine. So the music
Okay.
is it's a bluegrass song that I took in from.
Okay, because it did sound like a country song, but I was not familiar with it. It's an existing work. Was it a famous hit in the country
Um,
market or something?
it's something from the 70s. I never heard it before.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty old, but I don't know how popular it was. I didn't look up to see how successful it was. I just connected with what
Okay.
I was writing.
Because I didn't. Well, okay. So yes, if that's somebody else's song, you'd have to credit them for it, and then probably other than you could put it out on independently. But if it ever got like a sync opportunity, the sync people would go, "Who wrote that song? We're going to need permission from whoever wrote the music." Because that's obviously not yours, and you don't want to lie and say it is. So the problem with parodies is it might keep you from getting certain opportunities because the sync people definitely want to make sure they have permissions from everybody because they don't want to get sued. So, but however, they like to use things and I know there's filmmakers. I'm trying to think of Tatiana. Oh, my daughter's really into a famous indie filmmaker who sometimes, well, let's just say, there's certain indie filmmakers that love taking stuff like this because it just sounds cool and different and putting it in their movies because it really has a vibe to it for whatever scene it fits, as opposed to it being a
Even Quentin
commercial
Tarantino did that.
yeah. Well, Tarantino's the guy is kind of the obvious one, but I'm thinking about one second, I'll ask my daughter. Tatiana, who's that indie filmmaker you like? Yeah, Wes. Yeah. It's Wes Anderson I'm thinking about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy that would love something like that.
I wasn't really looking at it for syncing purposes. It's just more like going to be on YouTube and just like for funsies. Like that's all. I wasn't expecting this to be something syncable at all. I didn't write it for that purpose.
Okay.
But yeah, just like in terms of
But I mean, if I'm not a creator, but I would think you make things. Maybe you make things for fun, but I would think you make things for profit. So sync is profitable, but other than that, maybe because during an election cycle or something, if it's about one candidate or the other, you have that time, that lightning in a bottle moment where it catches on with the general public. But then once the election's over, it's sort of like, and people just, maybe the focus isn't so much about it. So I don't really know. Yes, you could put this up on the platforms, but I just wasn't sure what the driver was, if you were trying to find some kind of big exploitation opportunity or just like have it out there. But I don't, I just don't know how viral that would go without it being tied to some personality. I mean, is it obvious? I don't know. Or, you know what I mean? I'm not really sure. But it certainly sounds cool. And I like the way you sang it and all that stuff. So it's different. But I'm not an expert in the parody market. That's for sure. But hopefully there's some, but everything you do, like you said, are parodies. So you find existing works that are like obscure and then try to build on them, or is it just something you think that sounds like something you want to work with? How do you find the original material?
It's not everything I do is not parodies. I do original stuff and also it's just kind of whatever I'm inspired to do. So this was more of like I was just inspired. I just was thinking about what was happening at that time, and then I happened to hear that song, and then lyrics just that the original lyrics start to be replaced by the lyrics that I wrote, and so that's how it happened. So I don't really have a method or process, but it's just I don't have like a set, like when I do a parody, it just happens, and when I do original, I mostly do originals, but then I do a parody because it just
Okay.
connects randomly.
Well, and even a song like that too, like let's just say the Dixie Chicks were active. You know, they were super political towards the end. They would take a song like that and probably say, "We want to do this," you know, and then all of a sudden maybe there is an opportunity. And now I'm sure whoever the original publisher is of the music would probably be totally into letting you be the co-writer for that version that gets recorded by the Dixie Chicks. So, you know, in a perfect world, that's what a music publisher would do. They'd be thinking outside the box, trying to find an opportunity. But you on your own, it's hard. I'm just saying, you know, just that particular song because it's sort of country Americanish or bluegrass, whatever you want to call it. It just and I've worked with the Dixie Chicks before, so I followed their careers. So it just sometimes there may be an artist, not you, but an artist that might want to do this. That could make it a hit.
Mm.
You know what I mean? But it would be a time sensitive thing because it just has to fit the zeitgeist of whatever is going on at the time.
Yeah. Okay,
Well,
cool.
yeah, but you know, it's good to have a niche in this business if this is what you do. Because you know, I used Weird Al as an example, and that guy's probably a billionaire by now off of all the success he's had, and of course, he's been doing it for 40 some years. But he just does parodies.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth, but yeah, it's more of just an inspiration. I don't stick to parodies at all. I just do it's whatever I'm inspired. I have a lot of originals as well, that are more personal or not comedy at all. So yeah, I'm back and forth between it.
Okay, but it's good. Now it's good to be diverse, but I just think sometimes if you can find a way to have like a niche that people associate with you that's successful, you can always branch out later. But whether it's comedy, parody, or original, sometimes if you spread yourself too thin, if you're great at everything, but you're not known for anything, you know, so you may want to, I'm just saying, if you really think you excel in one particular genre or market, you might want to focus on that as your core focus and then see if you can get any traction in that area. And then people are more open to whatever you want to do. So that's just a little, you know, logical piece of advice.
That's
Take
actually
it or
really
take it or leave it, you know.
Yeah, yeah. No, thank you. That's helpful. Yeah, to get more, I guess find a more grounding position to go towards. Yeah.
Oh yeah, when you play the open mics and stuff, that makes a big difference. Like when you did Kulaks the other night, you got that video. I haven't seen it up yet. Did you post it anywhere?
I did. I think I just posted it. I might have just posted it maybe yesterday or 2 days ago.
Okay, well I'll look for it. But that, and then also, of course, come out to Jewel Universe tomorrow. That'll be fun too. You know, but the more that you play out, the more you are able to determine where you fit because you can see other artists and performers and of course our audience that will react to what you're playing and what you're doing, and you go, oh, got a great reaction to that one, or oh, everybody went to the bathroom with that one. So when you realize that, then you know, and it gets better and better that way. So
I've had performing live. I've had a lot of success with all like with this song and my regular songs. Like I don't really know in terms of where people leave and stuff. I play a lot of blues and rock, and people are into all of that. And then when I do the comedy, people are into that too. So I don't. That's why I don't know really where to focus. But it's all for me. It's all still fun to do, whether it's originals or parodies. It's still like yeah, still cause even my originals tend to be a little bit funny as well. So maybe that's why I feel like it kind of blends in because my originals can have some one-liners in them throughout the songs as well.
yeah, building a fan base is an important part of the whole thing there. Okay, well, great. And it's great to see you here as well.
Well,
too,
but
so.
let me ask you, so do you do comedy? Are you a comedian too? Do you stand up, or do you just like incorporate it in music? Because like, remember Adam Sandler was doing all those songs, those parody songs, because he could play guitar and sing, and he had a platform because he was a well-known, comedian. I just didn't know if you do that, because sometimes once people know you as a comedian, and then they know you do music too, then all of a sudden, then they can connect the dots there.
Yeah, I did. So I was doing a lot of improv comedy and musical comedy and sketch comedy. I did stand up, but I can still do it, but I mostly enjoy just making up on the spot and doing musical improv. And then I just connected it with music. So I don't have like a following for like a comedic following or a music following anywhere. So it's just like one of these things that just sort of blended into each other, really, because I've been playing music since I was a kid and also performing theater as a kid. So they just kind of melded into each other.
Okay, well, keep it up. Hopefully somebody will discover you because you're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Ed Lackey. It's called Spring Cleaning. Any comment, Ed?
The relationship song, and the guy's had enough, so he's going to do some spring cleaning.
Okay.
There is something in my mind. I think we're done. It's time. Don't know what I'm gonna do. Hey girl, we're through. Spring cleaning, start your day. Spring cleaning, get out of my way. Spring cleaning, that's what I say. Spring cleaning, get out of my way. You keep changing your mind. You do it all of the time. It's no longer a game. You're driving me insane. Spring cleaning, start your day. Spring cleaning, get out of my way. Spring cleaning, that's what I say. Spring cleaning, get out of my way. Hey, 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 hey. There is something in my mind. I think we're done. It's time. Don't know what I'm gonna do. Hey girl, I think we're through. Spring cleaning, start your day. Spring cleaning, get out of my way. Spring cleaning, that's what I say. Spring cleaning, get out of my way. Spring cleaning, get out of my way.
Oh, hey, Ed. So yeah, I like that song too. It's a fun song, and it kind of reminds me of a kind of like a Devo type of a tune, with what's just in the delivery and just it's got some unique lyrics, but that you can still relate to, but kind of funny and a little off center. So, but I was curious though, this song, is this something that you've created for sync purposes, or for you to release it, or for I'm always curious what's behind the motivation for when you create a song, what you want to do with it.
All of the above.
all the above. What do you think's the most likely? I guess to me, it probably would have more of a sync potential. Yeah, but because it's a fun song and it has a driving beat, it has a good that guitar riff again in the background is, drives it and is kind of is hooky if you listen very carefully to it. It's melodic, so there's some cool elements about the song. It's just the delivery of it, the deadpan kind of vocal delivery is makes it more less radio and probably more of a fitting some kind of scene in a TV show or a movie, I guess. But the whole spring cleaning theme of it certainly has, that's something that's like a catchphrase that people could probably sink their teeth into for some scene or maybe even a commercial. They might just take a snippet of it as opposed to lots of lyrics. But and then of course if there's some scene where somebody's dumping a girl, it's a perfect song.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah. But yeah, I like. Is that sort of the way you do music, or is this just a one-off, or was most of your stuff kind of like that?
Generally, overall, it's pretty much.
Have you had any success so far getting placements at all, or what have you been doing with the music?
Not really.
Do you try, or what's your method to try to get people to pay attention?
Well, I've tried several different ways, but I haven't had any real success.
Okay. What, even with this song, or is this a brand new one?
This is actually brand new.
Okay. Well, again, it has potential, so let's hope you find some placement for it. I guess with like anything, you just have to let people hear it, and hopefully, the more people that hear things, the better your chances are that there's an opportunity there. But it definitely is always numbers. That's my experience. Always a numbers game.
Thank you.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay, next up is one of mine. This is called For the Credits. Let's see. This is an angry lover song. Put simply.
It's the aftermath of your night-long lover's debut. Did you have your fun? Crawling on your knees. And did you stay for the credits? Did you stay for the credits? Did the artist show all his best work to you? Toying with your soul with a stare so stay for the credits? And did you stay for the credits? And were you thinking of me with your friend to be lost amid despair? It's your time to tell.
credits.
Hey, Steve. So yeah, that's an interesting song too. I mean, but the for the credits part certainly is a memorable hook line. At least I thought so. But is this based? Can I ask? Is this based on any relationship you had, or is this just
It was a personal
a theme?
experience from
Okay.
a very long time ago. Yeah, when I was in
Like, so-
college, actually. Yeah, it was a friend of mine who well, let's put it this way. It was one of those relationships where you're kind of going out with somebody, but not really. So you're in between, or they're in between. And so she was attracted to this friend of mine. So that's the original source of it. Yes.
Okay. Because it's sort of like it's a short-term relationship as opposed to long-term if they didn't stay for
Right.
the credits, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And that was sort of whoever wrote the song is they wished it would have been the opposite of that, or it
Well, it was
could be
more of a sarcastic comment. It's like,
Yeah.
did you admire him and stay for the credits for all your admiration, kind of thing. Yeah.
It's sort of yeah, well, back in the day when REM would write their own songs, but I could hear sort of like a band like that doing a song like this and having a hit with it just because they'd be able to put a spin on it and be accepted because they're so cool and alternative and all that, and still hooky at the same time. So I really liked the song. And again, with that, it could, certainly could fit in a relationship kind of a show or TV show or film. It certainly probably could have a place. Have you ever had any luck with it? But anybody have any interest in it, or have you never pitched it?
I've been close a couple of times, but never hit the home run.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean,
the
it's
reason I say close is when you submit to Broadjam, the software they use is very good because you can see how many times the client has played it. And this is one of those songs where they played, often more than one time, sometimes 2 or 3 times, but it still didn't make the final cut for whatever reason. Of course, you never know. But so it's been close a few times. That's all I can really say.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
definitely has there's definitely something special about that song, I think, just because and the for the credits part is one of those sticky things. It does, it's once it's in your head, it doesn't go away.
Good.
Yeah, so that's good.
I'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We only have one more, but it's by somebody who is not here. If you have time, do you want to listen, or it's up to you?
Yeah, that's fine. And then after that, I still have to, believe it or not, I still have to work on something tonight.
Okay.
So
All right. This is
I have to leave like at about 9:30 or I'll get burned out.
Oh yeah. No.
Okay, and one other thing real quick,
Yeah.
I put your website on the chat, so you guys want to save the chat, you can do that real quick.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, I
And-
forgot to do that. I forgot to do that. Usually I would. But yeah, if you can find me on my website, benmclane.com, and all my contact information is there. I'm in North Hollywood or the LA area.
Okay.
Okay, great.
All right. Let's get this one spinning here. There's no lyrics on this one. So, there's no lyric file. So.
Who is this? Who's did it?
Papa Satch. This is called. It Was You.
We met through a mutual friend, right behind the landslide inn. It was after 10 p.m. on Saturday night. We were talking about good times when I looked into your big blue eyes. In that moment I surmised I want you with me. It was you that I wanted, you that I need, you that I wanted to be here with me. It was you that I wanted, you that I need, you that I wanted to be here with me. a second date. Spanish food is what we ate. The conversation went real great with a kiss that ensued. It was on our way back home. You ignored your ringing phone. Made me feel like we were all alone. Us two, you and me. And it was you that I wanted, you that I needed, you that I wanted to be here with me. And it was you that I wanted, you that I needed, you that I wanted to be.
Oh, I didn't see the lyrics for that, but I could hear them.
They were not sent.
Oh, okay. So, and the artist again is who? I'm sorry.
Papa Satch, Jimmy, you know
Papa-
this fellow, right?
Papa Setch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought, and if that's him singing, I thought he had an interesting, kind of a striking voice. Is different, So
Mhm.
sometimes that makes it cuts through because it's just, it's like, oh, well, that sounds interesting, but musically, it's sort of like a jam, blues, rock, country aggregation. It's like a mix of lots of different styles and genres, but it was a feel good kind of a song, so it makes you feel good. So I could see it having some potential for a placement in a scene, a summer scene, beach scene, or holding hands kind of scene or whatever. So there's definitely some potential there, I think, for sync purposes. I would hope.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much once again, Ben. Appreciate you being here. And
Yeah.
today
Sorry
we
for
got
the
a
delay
lot
at
of
the
good questions
beginning.
answered. Yeah, it was
Yeah, it was
really,
a
really good.
computer glitch I had, unfortunately, so I was like in a panic.
Okay. Well, thanks for
Anyway.
having me. And if any,
Yeah.
if anybody needs any help, with legal stuff, let me know.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right. Well,
Hey,
thanks
take care.
again,
Good luck,
Ben.
everybody.
Okay.
Until next
Thanks again.
time. All right.
Okay, Jimmy, I'll catch up with you about that lunch then.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Real soon. All right.
Okay, bye.
And thanks for coming in, Will.
Good night, all.